Hey guys, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040, bringing to you another edition of the Crisis on Infinite Earths review series. And today I'm going to be talking about part 3 of the Crisis crossover, which is episode 9 of The Flash. Now, as we saw in part 2 of the Crisis, we had seen a number of different Earths continuously being wiped out by the anti-wave matter. We were treated to a cameo from Tom Welling's Clark Kent from Earth 167, and even though it was nice to see Tom Welling as Clark Kent again, I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get to see him suit up as Superman, or even suit up in one of his earlier costumes and fight alongside the heroes of the Arrowverse. We also got to see Earth 99, where Kate and Kara went to meet an older Bruce Wayne, who is played by Kevin Conroy, who made his live-action debut, and that was a really good scene, and Kevin Conroy kicked a lot of ass, as I would expect from a guy like Kevin Conroy. We also saw Lex Luthor gain control of the Book of Destiny and went around different Earths trying to kill all different versions of Superman. And it was quite funny that we saw him interact with Tom Welling's Clark Kent, so that side of it was fun. We also got to see Earth 96, where we met the Kingdom Come version of Superman, played once again by Brandon Routh, and that was fantastic, as you'd expect from a guy like Brandon Routh. And we learned about what happened to all of the people in his Earth. We even got a little reference to the Joker gassing the entire Daily Planet. So part 2 was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it, as I said earlier. So with that all said, let's get right into it. Let's talk about part 3 of The Crisis, episode 9 of The Flash. We kick off part 3 when we are taken to Earth 203, where we see a figure is jumping off rooftops wearing a black leather trench coat, and we see it's none other than the Huntress, played once again by the lovely Ashley Scott, and I have to say, she looks absolutely fantastic. She hasn't aged a day. She looks exactly the same as she did in the Birds of Prey TV show, and she hasn't missed a beat. She looks phenomenal, and it is possible that she's wearing a wig, or maybe she's dyed her hair, but who cares? The fact of the matter is, she was back and she looked amazing. And sadly, this was the only time we got to see her Huntress, which is a real shame really, because I was hoping that we would see her Huntress fight side by side with the rest of the heroes of the Arrowverse, but it is what it is. So we see her Huntress is trying to make radio contact with the Oracle, voiced by Dina Meyer. So what a coup that was. Not only did we get Ashley Scott back, but we got Dina Meyer back, even though she was not actually credited in this episode, nor was she mentioned that she would be appearing in this episode as well. So it was great to have the main pairing back for this one scene. So we see Huntress is trying to make contact, and she loses all radio contact over the comlink, and we see a giant tower, which I would imagine to be Wayne Enterprises, and before we know it, we see Earth 203, and Huntress and the entire Earth is wiped out by anti-wave matter. Very sad really. As I said, it would have been really cool to see Ashley Scott mix it up with all the other heroes, but it was nice to have her back here. So that is how we start part 3 of The Crisis. The next shot we see is inside the Wave Rider, where 7 people remain, including both Supermen, and Mar-Novu reminds them that they have only managed to locate 4 out of the 3 missing Paragons. And a breach opens up, and we see it's Team Flash, consisting of Killer Frost, Ralph Dibny and Cisco, And Ray is extra excited to have Cisco on board so he can work out all the bugs and the science. And Ralph is extra excited and channels in his inner fanboy when he sees a doppelganger of Superman. Frost very hilariously tells everyone, just ignore him, he's new here, this is his first crossover. What I like about recent episodes in the Arrowverse is they are not afraid to break the fourth wall, and they always poke fun at the fact that, we didn't get invited to this year's crossover, or we shouldn't have done this crossover. So it's really funny to see them take little digs and break the fourth wall like that, and I think it's a lot of fun. And I mean, even in something as serious as the Crisis crossover event, they still managed to throw a couple of little gags in there, so that's quite cool to see things like that. I like it. I think it's quite funny in my opinion. Navu interrupts everyone, reminding them that the wave is moving very rapidly and Earth 1 will be the final world to be destroyed. Supergirl informs everyone that Alex and Brainiac 5 are still safe and everyone from Earth 38 is still present and accounted for, regardless of the continuing distractions of all of the other universes. They decide to bring as many people as they can to Earth 1, trying to save whoever they can across the multiverse. Jean tells everyone that he can use his psychic abilities to keep everyone connected within the Wave Rider. Lois decides to return to the Legion ship because Parallel Earth Marie still has baby Jonathan, and she will keep everyone updated from her end. Everyone is interrupted with the excitement from Ray and Cisco, having just finished working on finding out who the remaining Paragons are. Batwoman asks what's taking so long, and Cisco tells her to wait as the machine has some buffering. It is revealed that the Paragons are the following: Flash is the Paragon of Love, John Jones is the Paragon of Honor, and a guy named Dr. Ryan Troy is the Paragon of Humanity, which means the only person they don't have a location on is Dr. Ryan Troy. Luckily, he is in Raymond's hometown at Ivy University. Ray and Ralph and Iris all decide to go to collect him. The Monitor confirms now that the final Paragons have been identified, and they must determine how to stop the anti-wave matter. They are interrupted by the voice of Leonard Snart, who announces that John Diggle has arrived on the Wave Rider. We then see John Diggle arrive at the infirmary, where he is upset and furious to find an unconscious and debatably deceased Oliver Queen laying there. Sarah tries to calm him down, but Diggle insists that I should have been there to protect him. Sarah reveals that they are going to try and bring him back, the same way that Oliver brought her back. Although Diggle doesn't like the idea of it, he insists that he is coming with them. The Monitor arrives and unceremoniously informs Diggle that Lila Michaels, aka the Harbinger, is missing. Diggle loses it and gets in the face of the Monitor and insists that he is not going to lose his wife or his best friend. And what I like about this scene is John Diggle has no special powers of his own, and he's not afraid to get into the face of a god like the Monitor. So even though he may not have powers of his own, he may have the biggest heart out of all of the heroes within the Arrowverse, and we got to see that on full display once again. So this was a really, really good scene, and he admits the Harbinger could possibly be working with his adversary, the Anti-Monitor. This is getting good. One thing I did want to point out is that I'm a little bit disappointed at the fact that John Diggle hasn't really had a much bigger role in the crossover event. I mean, especially with Arrow coming to an end, I was hoping that John Diggle would have a much bigger role in the crossover event and would fight alongside the rest of the heroes, but we haven't really seen much of John Diggle so far, so I am a little bit disappointed at that, but I'm hoping that will change as we go along here, as in my opinion John Diggle is probably one of the most important characters in the Arrowverse, so it would be nice to see him have a much bigger role, but we'll see really. Marnovu explains to the rest of the heroes who their real enemy is and informs them that he has been preparing them and testing them to their limits for a long time. He also explains that he needs their courage and honour as well as their strength and everything else that the Paragon stands for. Because of this, he needed the world's greatest heroes in order to defeat their greatest threat. The Anti-Monitor's goal is to eliminate all of the multiverse and replace it with his own design. Supergirl isn't surprised by this revelation and insists that he is just like every other megalomaniac. The Monitor admits that he should have seen his connection with the Harbinger could be used against him. Diggle doesn't care about this and just wants to know how to get his wife back. Their interest to find her falls on deaf ears. The Monitor also explains that he cannot rewrite history, but he can only attempt to save what remains. Supergirl is upset with this revelation and leaves to cool her head. Batwoman goes to watch her and takes out the kryptonite that Bruce Wayne of Earth 99 gave to her and questions whether to use it or not. I'm liking the Batman and Superman World's Finest classic relationship vibes going on with these two, and Batwoman pulling out the kryptonite is very reminiscent of what Bruce Wayne used to do in the comic books, whether or not to use it against Superman in the likelihood that should he ever go off the deep end. So to see them revisit that dynamic with Supergirl and Batwoman is a lot of fun. I'm really liking the chemistry between these two a lot. Sarah promises to watch over Oliver's body while Diggle takes Mia to go and find Oliver's soul. Frost and Cisco are both in the control room, and Cisco is excited when he announces that he is trying to determine where the anti-wave matter is going to hit the Earth and to locate the source of the waves, and he has discovered it's located at a subterranean region very close to them. He tells Frost to go and meet him in the cargo bay. On his way there, he is to run into the Monitor, having just left him in the control room. The Monitor informs him that it is time for him to become the Vibe again. Against Cisco's protest, he immediately transforms him back into the Vibe and giving him his powers. You know, I did miss the fact that Cisco had no powers, so for him to get them back, especially with the crisis going on, made me really happy. So the fact that we got Vibe back at just the right time was a good call. So whoever came up with the idea of giving Cisco his powers back during the crisis events was a brilliant move, I think. And we also see Flash and Iris are saying their goodbyes to each other, and Iris is still concerned about the prophecy about losing her husband in the crisis. Iris asks him, "Are you sure that you still want me to go to Ivytown?" And Flash says, "You must," and they share a tender moment before Flash goes off with Frost and Cisco to locate the source of the anti-wave matter. So far it's been really good. I've really been enjoying this a lot. Cisco then vibes the three of them to the underground bunker, where Barry immediately leaves to run a perimeter search, something he learned from the Green Arrow a long time ago. There the two of them make it to the end of the hallway, and they are standing before a wall encrypted with multiple symbols, the same wall of symbols that Nash Wells was trying to break into. A total of 7 hieroglyphics are seen. Both of them are interrupted by the presence of Pariah, who reintroduces himself to the three of them, insisting he is no longer Nash and he has only arrived to bear witness to the tragedy that they see before them. Cisco is neither impressed or surprised with his new name and look. When pressed as to what happened to him, Pariah admits that he was searching these tunnels for Mar-Novu in order to kill him and expose him as a false god, only to be controlled by another god, the Anti-Monitor. He had laid the perfect track for him, manipulating him to gain a foothold into this universe. They ask Pariah if he remembers how to open the door, but he does not. Pariah then reminds Cisco he can now vibe Nash's old memories. Cisco uses his vibe powers and is able to unlock the door behind the hieroglyphics. Oh, this is getting good. This is getting really good now. Meanwhile, back on the Wave Rider, Supergirl and Batwoman are in the holding cell with Lex Luthor, who is entertained by their current predicament. Supergirl questions him on whether or not it's possible to bring back Earth-38. Lex declines to give a clear answer. Batwoman becomes very annoyed with Lex and takes down the force shield holding the man and slams him against the wall, demanding answers. Yeah, Lex can have that effect on people, so it's no surprise that Batwoman would lose her cool with someone like Lex Luthor. I mean, look at the Joker and Batman. Enough said, really. Lex makes another joke, but Batwoman twists his arm harder behind his back. Lex admits that in order to use the Book of Destiny, you must focus on what you want without hesitation when questioning what he focuses on. Supergirl answers that his hatred has always been for Superman. Lex confirms that she got it on her first try. Lex Luthor surprisingly cautions them that killing someone is easy, but trying to bring back an entire Earth would drive the person insane, just like John Deegan back in the Elseworlds crossover. Kate puts Lex back in his invisible cell and warns Kara against using the book as they don't know what kind of effect it could have. She questions that since she is the paragon of hope, maybe she's supposed to do this. Maybe she's supposed to be the one to bring back Earth-38 and Argo City. Upset and distraught, Kara leaves the room. You know, I like the fact that Batwoman is agonising whether or not to take down Supergirl with the kryptonite, because I like their relationship. It's very similar to Batman and Superman. You know, Batman's always got his head on straight, so just like her cousin here, she's warning Kara, look, we don't know what could happen if you try to bring an entire planet. You've been warned. So I'm liking this relationship with these two. I'm really enjoying the dynamic with Batwoman and Supergirl, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more scenes with these two in future episodes. We're then taken to Earth 666 in Los Angeles. Now it's pretty obvious just by those three numbers alone who lives on this Earth. So we see Constantine, Diggle and Mia walking through an alleyway in Los Angeles, and they come to a front door and they knock on it, and they see a gentleman with two beautiful ladies, and it's none other than Tom Ellis playing Lucifer. Now, when Tom Ellis was asked that was he going to be appearing in the crossover or not, he openly denied it and says, nope, I'm not going to be appearing in Crisis at all. So to see him here as Lucifer was a lot of fun, and it was really good to see his Lucifer and Matt Ryan's Constantine interacting with one another. And even though this was the only scene we got with these two, this was one of the best moments in part 3 of the Crisis crossover. I mean, it was so funny and it was so hilarious to watch this, and I really enjoyed it a lot. And it's quite clear that Lucifer and Constantine have history, and Lucifer introduces himself as Lucifer, Morningstar, and Mia looks at him and says, as in the devil himself. Lucifer then hypnotizes Mia and seductively asks her, what is it your heart desires? And she says to Lucifer that, I just want my father back. And Lucifer, in very camp reaction, says, daddy issues? Why didn't you say so? Oh my god, this was a lot of fun. Tom Ellis really owned this scene. And Constantine explains to Lucifer that it is of the utmost importance that they tell where they can get Oliver's soul back, and after all, Lucifer owes him. Constantine explains to Lucifer that multiple Earths, including this one, are going to be wiped out by anti-wave matter, and Lucifer very snidely says, oh, the end of the universe. All sounds a bit very biblical to me, Johnny boy. Oh my god. Never one to be in debt, Lucifer explains to the three of them that you have to go to Purgatory and gives him a card with the devil on it. He warns that until the card fades in order to find their friend. And Lucifer very snidely says, always a pleasure doing business with you, John Constantine. And Constantine says, it's Constantine actually. And Lucifer says, is it really? I don't care. Oh dear. Yeah, this was a really good scene. I really enjoyed this a lot. And Mia gets very annoyed that Lucifer never told them how to get to Purgatory, but John assures them, don't worry, I already know how. And he says a quick incantation and the card lights up and sends them on their way to Purgatory. Yeah, this was a great scene. I really enjoyed this a lot. I thought Tom Ellis and Matt Ryan knocked this one out of the park, and who knows, I'm hoping this will lead to a crossover episode. Maybe Lucifer might show up in Legends of Tomorrow, who knows, but at some point I will definitely be getting round to watching the Lucifer TV show. I've heard lots of good things about it, and this has just cemented it for me, so I'll make sure I definitely get all the box sets and just binge watch the hell out of all of them. This was a really good scene, and I really liked this a lot. We then see the three of them arrive on a replica of Lianu Island. Diggle is surprised at their arrival, but Mia reminds them that the island's name is Mandarin for purgatory. John cautions them that a man without a soul is not easy to deal with and will most likely not remember them. Team Arrow is quickly losing time while looking for Oliver, as their card that Lucifer has given them is beginning to fade. They are all extremely surprised when a depressingly dressed Oliver Queen, clad in dark green rags, emerges from the forest and attacks them and knocks out Diggle and puts Constantine in a headlock. Frantically, Diggle begins to talk down his longtime friend and apologises for not being there to help save him, that no matter what happens they will always be brothers till the end. I kind of wish Diggle had a much bigger role in this Crisis crossover. I mean, it would have been nice, as I said in a previous video, that it would have been nice to see Diggle and Oliver fighting side by side, especially with the Crisis going on, so it would have been nice to see these two side by side in the final battle, but you know, I would have liked to have seen him had a bigger role, but I'm glad he's getting some more screen time here. This seems to connect with the angry man before them, who puts John down and hugs his friend with both arms. He breaks away to hug his daughter as well. John reminds them that it's time to leave, but before they can, the group is interrupted with the presence of another man, and his name is Jim Corrigan. Now, anyone who reads the comic books, you'll know that Jim Corrigan is none other than the Spectre. Here we see he is a much older man with dark hair, and he informs that he used to be a decorated police officer, but was eventually called to a higher purpose to become the Spectre. He says that while his eyes briefly glow green, Mia is unimpressed and tells him to leave. Jim turns to Oliver and informs him that it is now your turn to serve a higher purpose, and that his destiny is to save everyone, otherwise all the universes and everybody he loves will perish. Oliver seems to know this and trusts this man and agrees. His daughter and his friends are sent away, leaving Oliver alone once again. So it looks like what we're going to have is Oliver Queen is going to become the next Spectre. That should be quite interesting. I'd like to see that. I think that could actually work, so I'd like to see how that would actually work and what kind of role Oliver Queen could play in the Crisis as the Spectre. Shortly after, we see Barry Allen has returned, confirming there are no quantum towers around. Him, Cisco, and Frost enter a very clean and futuristic looking room. Cisco says the room has an intense amount of vibrational frequency surging through it. The Pariah tells them that this is the nexus between the antimatter universe and their own. In the middle is a bright white light beaming up towards the sky, and the energy is surrounded by red lights with a darker red vibrating in the front of it, which just so happens to be the antimatter's source of the wave. Frost questions if the blur is alive. Barry uses his speed to run forward, only to be shocked and surprised to see that it is none other than Barry Allen from Earth 90, running on a treadmill continuously at the speed of light. Now, the last time we saw Earth 90 Flash was in the Elseworlds crossover event, where the Monitor made him disappear, but we didn't know where. But now we know exactly where he has ended up. Earth 90 Flash warns them to stop, but Barry doesn't react in time and hits the force field surrounding the older Flash. The Pariah reminds them that the last time they faced off against the Monitor, the Speedster disappeared in a puff of smoke and has been missing ever since. It has all been part of the greater plan. The Anti-Monitor corralled his speed and used it to build his antimatter cannon, which he tested by destroying the first Earth, which we now know was Earth 2. It is only then that everyone realises that both Harry and Jessie are now gone. It is also during this time they realise the Pariah is missing again. Flash insists that they get their old friend off the treadmill. He convinces Cisco that this is why the Monitor gave him his powers back, so he opens a portal directly in front of Earth-90's Flash, who unwillingly is forced through. Earth-90's Flash thanks him after hitting a wall and insists he must go back. The cannon begins to erupt as it powers down. Earth-90's Flash insists that unless he continues to power it, it would immediately destroy all the remaining Earths as a countermeasure to keeping him running. Team Flash is then surprised to see a tall figure emerge through one of the breaches, and it is none other than Jefferson Pierce himself, aka Black Lightning, who has finally made his official debut as part of the Arrowverse during this crossover event. And to see Cress Williams in the full Black Lightning suit interacting with Grant Gustin's Flash and John Wesley Shipp's Flash of Earth-90 was a lot of fun, and this moment I would definitely put it up there with the Lucifer cameo in terms of the fun aspects, because this moment was a lot of fun. And it's quite funny because ever since Black Lightning made its debut, lots of fans, and myself included, have speculated that Black Lightning's show is possibly connected to the Arrowverse, because they made a couple references to Supergirl, but the show's producers had openly denied it and said no, Black Lightning is not connected to the Arrowverse, none whatsoever. So to finally not only pay it off but surprise us all was a stroke of genius, and Cress Williams was a badass as always, and he absolutely owned this moment. And as I said, it was a lot of fun, and being a comic book hardcore geek that I am, this was a true dream come true. Now, I'm going to add a minor Black Lightning spoiler from his show, because it's important to the Crisis crossover, especially this part of the crossover. What had happened at the end of episode 9 in season 3 of Black Lightning, in an episode called Earth Crisis, we had seen Black Lightning's Earth get wiped out by anti-wave matter. So we saw all of his friends and family get wiped out by the anti-wave matter. We saw his daughters Anissa Pierce and Jennifer Pierce get wiped out. We saw his wife Lynn get wiped out. We saw his friend Peter Gamby wiped out. Everybody was wiped out by the anti-wave matter. And right at the very, very end, like the last 10 seconds, we saw Black Lightning disappeared. And the reason why he disappeared is because the Pariah teleported him to this room where Earth-90's Flash was on the treadmill. So at least we know now how Black Lightning ended up in the Arrowverse with the rest of the heroes in Earth 1. So I thought that was a really cool way, because when I initially watched this, I couldn't make heads or tails on how did Black Lightning end up here? Why is he here? So while I was watching the Black Lightning episode, Earth Crisis, I understood and knew why now, how he ended up with these guys. So it was really cool the way they tied everything together. So this was brilliantly and very well done, in my opinion. We then see a very angry and very confused Black Lightning go around attacking everybody, demanding to know how he got here and who they all are. He then begins to strike them with one of his own lightning attacks. The Flash steps forward and sends his own attack, but is sent flying back against a monitor screen and crashes it. The Pariah reappears before them again and introduces them to Jefferson Pierce as Black Lightning. Jefferson reluctantly informs them that he was brought here to help them, as his world has just been destroyed. Black Lightning then begins to break down in tears, saying that it should have been him who was left to die, not his family. Barry Allen of Earth 1 explains to him that he understands how he feels, but right now They have to save the Earth that they're currently on, as this is the only Earth left and all of the multiverse has been destroyed. Barry then asks Jefferson for his help, to which Jefferson agrees and begins to absorb the electricity from the machine, giving them more time. What I liked about this scene is it is understandable that Jefferson Pierce is pissed off because he just stood next family for 1 second and the next thing he knows they've disappeared before his eyes and he doesn't know how and why this has happened. And I like the fact that in the event of a crisis, Barry pleads with Jefferson's, look, I know how it feels to lose someone you love and to lose your family, but the whole world's about to end here. We need your help. So this was a lot of fun. And as I just said earlier, it was so cool to see Black Lightning interacting with all of these guys and to see Cress Williams interact with Tom Cavanagh's Pariah / Nash Wells. So this scene had it all and it was very, very emotional. But the emotional journey isn't over yet. We're about to get even more emotional as we go along here. Realising that they are both running out of time, both Barry Allens use their super speed to begin communicating with each other. Earth 1 Barry confesses how worried he is that the more time they waste, another world dies, and he can't afford to lose his wife Iris. Earth 90 Barry reveals to him that he was once married too. His wife's name was Tina, and her whole purpose in life was to keep him running, and he's been doing just that for the past 30 years. This causes something in Earth 1 Barry to realise and understand what the monitor meant that day in the time vault. Realising that he has been running towards this for all these years, he understands now that it's finally time to make the ultimate sacrifice. Cisco also informs him that reversing the trail mellow's directional velocity could make the anti-wave matter received and funneled back into the speed cannon, thus destroying the machine once and for all. Barry, realising that it must be him, he begins to say goodbye to his friends, commenting that both Caitlin and Cisco were the first people who ever saw him and made him realise to open his eyes that day in the hospital, and he credits them that he could not be a hero without them. He also adds that tell his wife and Joe how much he loves them and that they promised to do so. He is interrupted by the older Flash, who apologises before momentarily stealing his speed, telling him that when you're a speedster, as long as I have been, you do learn some pretty neat tricks. Barry of Earth 1 cries out, wanting to know, why are you doing this? Earth 90's Barry says, the monitor said the Flash had to die during the crisis, but he never said which one, and insists that he wants him to be a younger man and live a longer life. He takes a moment to tell Jefferson that he's a good man and that he's an amazing hero. He then instructs Cisco to open the breach. Cisco is very reluctant and hesitant to do this, but the older Flash reminds him that he doesn't want his friends to die. Let him do this, while Earth 1 Barry pleads for his friend not to do it. Reluctantly, Cisco opens the breach, allowing Earth 90's Barry to go back on the treadmill once more. Once on the treadmill, he begins running at full super speed once again. Cisco opens another breach for them to escape through. Everyone leaves as Cisco forces Barry to come with them. Now that Earth 90's Barry is left alone in the room, he holds on to his final moments of remembering his wife, and we see a very sweet yet sad flashback of him and Tina, and before the energy destroys him, he manages to stop Earth 1's immediate destruction, saving everybody, and the last shot we see is the entire treadmill is in pieces, and we see a piece of the lightning symbol from Barry's suit just left there in the middle. I have to say that I know that the Flash 90 show got cancelled years ago and it never got the proper ending that it deserved, so to see John Wesley Shipp's Flash make the ultimate sacrifice and saving everybody and preventing Earth 1 from being destroyed, I thought was a really good way to end his journey and end his story. No doubt we are going to probably see Jay Garrick in future episodes as John Wesley Shipp, but to see his Flash, the original Flash, die and go out like a true hero was a great send-off for him, in my opinion, and this was one of the more emotional moments of the crossover event, so this was a lot of fun. And adding the flashback with Barry and Tina was a really nice touch, so I like the fact that we got a nice callback to the original show, so this was a lot of fun, and mega props to everybody involved in this scene. It was great. And I also liked the final line that Earth 90's Flash said to Earth 1's Flash, "Keep riding the lightning, son. I know you'll make us all proud." I thought that was a real nice, true passing of the torch from the original Flash to the current Flash, so I thought that was a real nice touch and a really good way to end the original Flash's journey. With the anti-cannon down, Earth 1's skyline begins to turn into the same red colour that the other Earths were experiencing before. Ray Palmer, Iris and Ralph Dibny walk into the lab to find Dr. Ryan Choi all alone in his lab on the phone to his wife. He immediately puts his phone down when he realises that one of them is his all-time favourite hero, Dr. Ray Palmer, who is standing before him. He's incredibly shocked and surprised and begins gushing over him, insisting his second paper on subatomic density manipulation was the foundation for his work on miniaturization. Iris interrupts him, insisting they need to come with him immediately. Ray quickly explains that they're all heroes, and the Doctor, for obvious reasons, does not believe them. Ralph shows his abilities and reveals himself to be Elongated Man and gives the man a Kleenex. They insist Ryan is a paragon and they need his help to save what's left of the multiverse, and understandably freaked out by everything, Ryan backs out of the room wanting to spend his final moments with his wife and child. Ryan is frantically packing his things in his office but takes a moment to look at his photograph of his wife and child. He is interrupted by Iris, who congratulates him on his beautiful family. Ryan tells him that she is not like her, he's just a normal guy. Iris explains that, well, I'm just a normal person too, and the Doctor notices her ring and asks if she is not with her husband. She also mentions that her husband is not like them, he is also a hero himself, but it is them who reminds the heroes that what they are fighting for. He mentions his daughter, and Iris asks if he would like to hold his daughter, knowing that he was the one who helped save the universe. He reluctantly agrees as Ray and Ralph come to stand behind her. Ray tells Iris that Lois just informed that 6 more Earths have been destroyed. So it looks like to me that Ryan Choi is going to possibly be the next Atom, especially with the stories that Brandon Routh is leaving Legends of Tomorrow. So it's possible that we might see Ryan Choi as the next Atom, because he was the Atom in the comic books, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens really. But I thought the idea that he's just a regular guy and has no superpowers of his own, I think he'll fit in quite nicely with the rest of the Arrowverse, in my opinion. Iris reminisces saying goodbye to her husband back on the Wave Rider. The two share a tender goodbye, both believing it could be the last time they see each other. Barry promises that no matter what happens, he will always come running back to her. Aww. It's nice to have things like that, especially with all the doom and gloom that's going on. It's always nice to have these little nice scenes in situations like this. Meanwhile, on the Wave Rider, Lois is watching a monitor and is devastated to see that Earth-73 has been wiped out by the anti-wave matter. The monitor is beside her and she informs him that there are only 7 remaining Earths left in the multiverse. Lois also brings up how ironic the situation is that the biggest event in the history of the universe, and no one will ever read the story. The monitor brings up how these Earths were not the only ones that were destroyed. We also learn that his world was destroyed and that he lost his family, and he reminisces about his life and how much they meant to him. He now wishes that he had spent more time with his family and not been so focused on his work. Well, at least in this scene we got to learn a little bit more about who the Monitor is, that there's more to him than just being an almighty powerful god, and that he does have a normal life and that he did have a family of his own. So at least we got a little bit of an idea of why the Monitor is the way that he is. They are then interrupted by the Kingdom Come Superman, who is returned from somewhere, and he smashes his fist on the floor, devastated at not being able to save Earth-73. She asks her husband's counterpart if he wishes to take a break. He ignores her and begins a speech about why he wears his family's crest. He says he wears it to save people because he is reminded that he is to never give up fighting. Lois also asks him why the black on the S, and he explains to that even in the darkest of times, hope always cuts through, and hope is the light that lifts us out of the darkness. You know, all due respect to Tyler Hoechlin, who plays Superman, but I felt that Elizabeth Tulloch, who plays Lois Lane, has more chemistry with Brandon Routh's Superman than she does with her Superman. They just seem to fit better. Maybe because Brandon Routh looks more like the Christopher Reeve Superman than Tyler Hoechlin. I don't know really, just watching these two interact together just seems to be more of a natural chemistry. They feel more like Lois and Clark than the Earth-38 Lois with her Clark. Don't know really, maybe it's just me, but I just seem to enjoy those two interacting more than I do with the fact that she interacts with her Clark. Maybe it's just me, but I really enjoyed their chemistry here. It really feels much more like the real Lois and Clark that I know and love, as opposed to Earth-38's Lois and Clark. But this was a really good scene. I really enjoyed it. So Kingdom Come Superman asks to be sent back to another Earth to try and save it, and he disappears, and Lois comments on his bravery to the Monitor, only to realise that the Monitor has also disappeared, and Lois says to herself, "Oh, I guess I'm just talking to myself then." So this was a really nice scene. I enjoyed this one a lot. We then see Girl is in the Wave Rider's office looking at the Book of Destiny, debatably getting ready to open it. She is then stopped by Kate, who asks her what she is doing. Kara insists that she has to do whatever it takes to bring her Earth back and all the other Earths, and she is the one to fix it. Kate insists that this is not the answer. Kara is thoroughly becoming more annoyed and asks what else can be done. She can't stand by while all those people are just dying. Kate says she doesn't like it, but using the book will destroy her. Supergirl says this is what she has to do, and Batwoman says that she will stop her. Kara promises that Kate will not be able to. Kate is unsure how she would bear in a fight, even with kryptonite in her hand, and tries her best to talk her friend down, rationalising that if she does this and it doesn't work, they can't risk having something happen to her because she is supposed to be the paragon of hope, and without her they are all doomed. Annoyed at her reasoning, Kara reluctantly leaves. Kate lets out a breath of air. She didn't realise what she'd been holding. Later, Kate takes a moment to track down Kara, telling her that she understands why Kara wanted to bring those people back, and now she has the biggest heart of anyone she's ever met, but she can't get hurt. It would open them to more danger. Kara compliments her for being the paragon of courage, admitting it took a lot to stand up against a Kryptonian. Kate sees how good of a person Supergirl really is, and decides to give her the kryptonite that she took off Bruce, believing her to be a good person. Kara then tells Kate to keep the kryptonite and have the courage that she'll never have to use it. You know, out of every character that's been involved in this part of the crisis, that is part 3 that is, I have to say that Kara and Kate's relationship has really fully developed, and I've liked what they've done with these two, and some of the best scenes among the heroes in the Arrowverse has been with Supergirl and Batwoman, and I like that they're trying to build these two up as the world's finest of the Arrowverse, and the dynamic is very similar to Batman and Superman, so these two were a lot of fun to watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing maybe a full episode with these two working together to take down a villain, because I think that has a lot of potential to be very good with the right story to work with. So watch this space. I'm looking forward to seeing where these two go from here after Crisis is over and done with. We then see both Superman and Lois Lane in the control rooms when they are surprised to find Constantine, John Diggle and Mia appear before them. They tell them that Oliver would not come back with them, and Diggle apologises to Sarah and asks how everyone else is doing. They are told how Barry Allen of Earth 90 was able to stop the antimatter, and that Earth 1 is the only Earth that remains. In another room, we see Barry Allen is with Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning, and he tries to console him, but he believes nothing is going to be okay ever again. Barry then tells him about how Earth 90's Flash died, and he coincidentally looks exactly like his father, Henry Allen, who is imprisoned for most of his life after one of Barry's enemies framed him for murdering his mother. Jefferson also opens up that his father asked Lynn Pierce, who was also a good man and a reporter, but he was murdered when he was just 12 years old. He made sure to carry on the lessons his father taught to his children, and they both agree that neither of their fathers were ever quitters, so they honour their memories and rage against the dying of the light. Having had an initial rocky start, the two heroes shake hands and reintroduce themselves to each other with their full names, and Barry then asks him for his help, to which Black Lightning agrees and says, "Okay Barry, I'm in." This was a really nice scene with Barry and Jefferson, and this was also another cool treat to see Black Lightning interacting with all of the heroes in the Arrowverse, and to see him interacting with one of the main heroes, that being the Flash, was a real extra nice treat. It is a real shame that we never got to see Black Lightning interact with Oliver Queen, because that's something I've always wanted to see, but it is what it is. But just to see Black Lightning and the Flash interact with each other, you know, after all the times I've seen them interact in the Super Friends cartoons, so to see them interacting in live action in the Arrowverse for this monumental crossover event was a big treat for me, and this was a lot of fun, and I hope this isn't the last time that we see Cress Williams and Grant Gustin in the same room together, because they've got great chemistry, and I like to see them team up in a crossover episode in the near future, just like I said with Kate and Kara's Supergirl and Batwoman personas. So this was a real nice treat, and you need scenes like this, so this was a lot of fun. The Wave Rider announces that Iris, Ralph and Ray Palmer have returned with Dr. Troy. Iris runs to her husband, relieved that he is still alive, and Barry tells her that the Flash from Earth 90 sacrificed himself, and Iris isn't all that fazed. As long as she has her husband, that's all that matters. They introduce everyone to Black Lightning, who immediately takes note that there are two Supermen in the same room, and is astonished that they're not just stories. And I like the line where he says, "Wow, you mean the whole Superman thing is actually real? Damn." Yeah, that was quite cool to see Black Lightning acknowledge that there are two Supermen in the same room. The heroes are then introduced to the Paragon of Humanity, and that is Ryan Choi, as he's declared that he's going to help them save the world. We get a brief moment where we see Jefferson and Diggle lock eyes and acknowledge each other with a nod. That was cool. Would have liked to have seen them have maybe a little bit of dialogue there, but just the fact they acknowledged each other, that's good enough for me. So now that everyone is together in the same room, they begin discussing what to do next, and they are interrupted by the arrival of Lila Michaels. She appears before them, and Diggle immediately goes to hug her, and she then tells him that with all of the worlds disappearing, her powers are not working how they should be. She also admits that she doesn't know where exactly she has been. Team Flash is concerned why the Anti-Monitor would want the Harbinger back on the ship, as he's possibly been controlling her the entire crisis. They become further concerned when the Pariah appears before them, as he is only to arrive before great tragedy. The Harbinger's eyes then turn white, and she is then possessed by the Anti-Monitor, who speaks through Lila's body. It's time to end
the age of heroes, and everything you hold close, in a distorted voice before throwing Diggle against the wall. Kingdom Come Superman and Black Lightning both try to fight her, but are quickly overpowered. Not wanting to waste any more time, the Anti-Monitor forces everyone to the ground and preventing them from moving. There he tells Neville how foolish he has been for trying to stop him. The Monitor tells Mobius it was foolish to allow his creation in the first place. The two then begin to attack each other with power in the form of bright energy being forced in the other's direction. Unfortunately, Mobius wins and is able to destroy Novu and take his powers away from him. When these two were locked in battle, exchanging powers with their laser beams, I couldn't help but feel they were reminding me a bit of Dragon Ball Z, so that was quite cool to see that. And you can really tell that the budget is quite high in this crossover, much higher than past crossovers. However, before he dies, Novu is able to tell Pariah that he knows what he has to do when the time comes. The Wave Rider interrupts him with an alert that Earth-1 has been destroyed. The Anti-Monitor quotes that he will be victorious in a matter of seconds. The Wave Rider informs him that they have exactly 28 seconds, and in that moment, Pariah realises what he must do. Before that wave can hit them, he vanishes the 7 Paragons away. Jean tries to alert everyone before he too is banished, followed by Sarah in the medbay, who leaves behind Oliver's body. The Pariah announces that he has sent all the Paragons away. Superman of Earth-38, Lois, Black Lightning, Iris and Ralph all remain on the ship, determined to go down standing. Before being wiped out by the antimatter, Superman gives a nod to Iris, assuring her that everything is going to be okay. Wow. Powerful stuff here, if I do say so myself. We then see the heroes are teleported to the vanishing point, where Batwoman and Superman find themselves close together, both wondering where they are. Sarah explains that they are at the vanishing point, a point outside of space and time. She remembers the last time they visited there years before, where it was destroyed when Leonard Snart blew it up in his heroic sacrifice. They all quickly realise that the Pariah sent them there, knowing that the Anti-Monitor could not follow them. Barry Allen begins to panic and starts telling everyone they have to go back, but he is stopped when Superman starts to have red glowing shards shooting out of his body. He says that he feels that something is wrong, and Supergirl begins to hold him as he slowly drops to the ground, in a manner very similar to the iconic scene where Lois holds a dead Superman's bloodied body at the end of Death of Superman. He vanishes and is replaced by Lex Luthor, to everyone's horror. Lex Luthor exclaims how happy that his plan has worked, and that he himself has rewritten the Book of Destiny and replaced him with himself as the paragon of truth. That evil SOB Lex, honestly. There's a reason why he's called the smartest man in the world, and he's proved it yet again. I am a bit disappointed that Kingdom Come Superman disappeared the way he did, because I was hoping that we would see him stand alongside the rest of the heroes, and it would have been something very close to the Justice League, so I'm a little bit bummed out. But I understand that it's all part of the story, but still, it just would have been nice to have seen that, because Brandon Routh has been absolutely fantastic as Superman, and he's more than proved his worth of having another shot at the role, and he's done a kick-ass job. Lex also admits that he changed the Book of Destiny and decided to put his name over Superman's, and is now one of the 7 Paragons in the entire universe that is left. All 7 Paragons are now trapped in the vanishing point, and that's how part 3 of the Crisis ends. Well, overall, I have to say, very good. Really enjoyed this a lot. I thought it was really cool that we got to see Black Lightning mixing it up with all of the Arrowverse heroes, and I thought it was a very clever move what they did by having Earth 90's Flash be the one who disappears and makes the sacrifice to save everyone, instead of it being Earth 1's Flash after being told countless times that he was going to be the one who disappears in the Crisis. And I thought it was a really good way for the Crisis to honour John Wesley Shipp's Flash and giving him a great send-off. So I thought that was a great way that they wrapped up his journey, so to speak, because, as I said earlier, the Flash TV show got cancelled and he never got a proper ending. So the fact that he was the one who made the sacrifice, I thought that was a really great way to end his journey, in my opinion. And this was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed this a lot. So I'm going to wrap this up now, and the next time I will be back, I will be talking about part 4 of The Crisis, which is episode 8 of Arrow. So I'm going to leave this here for you guys. What did you think of part 3? Did you think it was as good as part 2 and 1? Did you have any favourite moments? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for when I talk about part 4 of The Crisis. So till then, take care everybody.